In July 2023, UFO whistleblower David Grusch testified under oath before Congress that the United States government was in possession of crashed UFOs, and we were attempting to reverse engineer them, and we had alien bodies. Now, as part of his investigation, he had about 40 witnesses, more or less, that he built his investigation around. Well, journalist Leslie Kean has identified one of those witnesses. Now, the crazy part, it happened 7 months ago, and it somehow got overlooked. Let's dive in. If you're new to the channel, y'all, and you like content like this, hit that subscribe button. We put our new video every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. I do not miss a day. And of course, hit that like button, y'all. That really helps out the videos, so thank y'all so much for the support there, vetters. And of course, comment down below. What do you think of this news? Did you already know about this? Is this the first time you're hearing it? Because for me, this is the first time I'm hearing it, and we're going to dive in on this. I did a lot of work on this episode. It's fascinating. All right, so let's dive into this. All right, let's start. Who's Leslie Kean? She is a journalist who first broke David Grusch's story before the News Nation interview, in fact, in a debrief article, which we're going to take a look at. And she talked about David Grusch and some other people in there. Right? Well, on a News Nation interview, sometime around the same time, or a little bit after, right, last summer, she came out and basically said the name of one of these, witnesses, one of these 40 witnesses. Now, I have made a video about a month ago of one of the witnesses identifying himself. He leaked it himself on Facebook in a small Facebook group, and it was Eric Davis, Dr. Eric Davis. And I made a video about that. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check out that video. So that's one confirmed witness of David Grusch's 40, right? Well, I see on Twitter today or a couple days ago, that there's another witness, but apparently it was known about months and months ago, which I just overlooked. I don't know. I've never seen anybody talking about it, to be honest with you. His name is Carl Nell. Now, I just covered him a couple days ago on the Soul Foundation video. I played a couple clips from his presentation, which was quite fascinating. But at the time, I didn't know he was one of David Grusch's 40 witnesses. So I find this absolutely fascinating. We're going to dive in deep a little bit to who Carl Nell is a little bit. And I just find that fascinating. And I'm going to end with a clip from his presentation that I didn't show, which I also find fascinating. So let's dive into the clip first of Leslie Kean talking about Carl Nell. Again, she's on News Nation. So this is after the public UFO hearings. After David Grusch has testified, Okay, hang on. Technical difficulties.
That we're going to see is that other whistleblowers, some of whom have already given testimony to Congress, they might decide to go public, and others may come to Congress now that they've seen what happened at the hearing yesterday.
David Grusch said in his testimony that he talked to 40 people over 4 years, all of whom had information on a secret military program that has non-human craft and remains. Is it surprising to you that none of those 40 people has spoken out?
It is surprising. It actually isn't, Elizabeth. Some of them have. One of them actually was in our article in the debrief. A former Army colonel named Carl Nell. I think maybe some of them have spoken out a little bit, and we just don't maybe put it all together. But it really isn't surprising because of the repercussions that people face. And Dave Grusch is an example of that. He talked a little bit in the hearing yesterday about the repercussions that he's faced, which are very harmful to him, both personally and professionally for speaking out. So I think others have the same concerns, and they've seen it happen to him. They want to wait and make sure it's safe for them to come forward and not have to face the same kinds of things that David Grusch faced.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that? He just said he had suffered.
So there you go. She pretty much just outs him in that moment, right? Carl Nell, this guy right here again, and he hasn't done much stuff, right? That presentation that he gave, honestly, seeing that video was the first video I'd ever seen of him speaking. I didn't even know what his voice sounded like. And so this is fascinating. It just makes you start to wonder, who are the others? right? I bet a lot of them we could guess, if I'm being honest. They're probably people you know. Now, does that worry you or what? I don't know, right? Finding out Dr. Davis was one, is Hal Puthoff one, James Lukatsky, Colm Kelleher, right? Some of these names, I don't know, just curious. Who are all these witnesses and if they're people we know? Now, remember, James Fox has a documentary coming out with firsthand witnesses, right? Who people we have not heard of. So I don't know. I bet some of the names of David Grusch's 40 witnesses we know and the others we don't. Now, there's a guy in this article, this debrief article we're going to go over, that's a pseudonym. That's who I want to know who this person is. And we're going to talk about him at the end of the video. Yeah. All right. So Carl Nell, right here. So in that debrief article, again, this is the first time David Grusch is being mentioned, UFO whistleblower, blah, blah, blah. Then he does the New Nation interview. This was a bombshell article. This is right when Vetted started. Honestly, I was prepping the first Vetted video when this dropped, and it threw everything. I was like, crap. It just threw all my stuff, It's crazy. So I basically started right when Grusch came out. And I had no idea. I was prepping, and I just had no idea. It's crazy. Anyway, so in this article, they bring up this guy who I had never heard of, Carl Nell, a recently retired Army colonel and current aerospace executive who was the Army's liaison for the UAP task force from 2021 to 2022 and worked with Grusch there. So that's interesting. He could be a witness for him, also being a co-worker. But I guess that's possible. Characterizes Grusch as beyond reproach. All right. I agree. Let's go to the next instance. No. Okay. But this is the part that gets everyone excited about Carl Nell, is this quote that I'm about to read y'all. Grusch left the government on April 7, 2023, in order, he said, to advance government accountability through public awareness. He remains well supported within intelligence circles, and numerous sources have vouched for his credibility. His assertion concerning the existence of terrestrial arms race occurring sub rosa. Hang on a second. Let's do this. Yeah. Over the past 80 years, focused on reverse engineering technologies of unknown origin is fundamentally correct, as is the indisputable realization that at least some of these technologies of unknown origin derive from non-human intelligence. Okay? Indisputable realization. So Carl Nell is just flat out saying, this is real, y'all. And you wonder, how does he know about this, right? How would he know about this, right? How does Carl Nell know about this? And just real quick, at the end here, it says, in a 2022 performance evaluation, Laura A. Potter, Deputy Chief of Staff for Intelligence Headquarters, Department of the Army, described Nell as an officer with the strongest possible moral compass. All right. So we're going to come back to this article, y'all, because there's someone mentioning it that we got to find out. I don't know if we need to find out who it is, but it would be great if they came forward. Anyway, let's move on to Carl Nell's LinkedIn profile, okay, that I have here. Now, he's got some very interesting parts of his job, right? He's worked for Lockheed. What he's doing now, Deputy COO, Director, Special Programs, U.S. Africa Command. Got this business here, Strategy Officer, okay, blah, 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 yeah, Systems Engineering and Integration, Northrop Grumman, interesting, right? But this right here, y'all, Defense Intelligence Agency. He was the first person deployed from the DIA Directorate of Intelligence Production and Analysis to participate in multi-agency planning for Operation Iraq Freedom, as the Foreign Material Program Command Representative to U.S. CENTCOM in Kuwait, right? Enabled the safe and successful recovery. Here, I'm going to highlight this. Enabled the safe and successful recovery of hundreds of conventional weapon systems of strategic value and successfully addressed the question of potential WMD existence asked by the President of the United States while incurring zero mission fatalities. Now, the thing is, he worked for a foreign material program, right? And I tried to find out some information about foreign material programs, and it's not much out there. Again, I'm going to put links to all this so you guys can look at it. But, right, I got this one here. Defense Intelligence Agency Office of the Inspector General plan to begin the subject joint evaluation in September 2023. The objective of this evaluation is to assess the efficiency and effectiveness of the DoD Foreign Material Program's policy and resources, right, for integrating service and combat support agency acquisition and exploitation of foreign materials, right? And then this, right, from the Defense Intelligence Agency. Now, this is 1988, but the fact that they've had these programs in place, honestly, the next article I'm about to read y'all is absolutely insane, right? The FMP, Foreign Material Program, even though they spelled material, Foreign Material Program. You've got the DoD is placing strong emphasis on the FMP and has taken action to ensure that the program is conducted in an organized and efficient manner. The FMP within the DoD, I'm telling y'all, it's kind of crazy. Right here. So basically, like, they do get foreign materials. Like, we've been basically for over 100 years almost, our government has been trying to acquire foreign assets forever. You know, back through all the wars, back through everything for a long time, through the Cold War, we'd always be trying to access and reverse engineer materials, right? And this particular page right here, y'all, man, there's some really crazy stuff on this page. Hang on a second. It just talks about, now this is in the, there's just different foreign material programs, right? And it's hard to tell how much they work together because this is the Air Force's Foreign Material Exploitation Squadron, right? It's an 87-person, 87-member Foreign Material Exploitation Squadron. And it's just so interesting, like the stuff that they do. They tell the story here of getting a component, right? Look, depending on the classification of the materials obtained, air, space, or cyberspace, a team of the United States' most qualified, knowledgeable, and tech-savvy sleuths grab their scalpels and start dissecting. Their analysis and reverse engineering is performed in some of the most heavily fortified, controlled, and monitored facilities in the military. Right? I mean, think about it, y'all. Like, we can have these kind of programs. Like, we can't, because I always doubted that. Like, man, that's just, that. I was just very skeptical of that, to be honest with you. But, man, like, we're just doing stuff people just have no idea about, right? And Carl Nell was a part of something like this, right, for a couple years. So how does he know, right? Because if you go back, again, to this article, right, what does he state? Let's read this again. His assertion concerning the existence of a terrestrial arms race occurring sub rosa over the past 80 years focused on reverse engineering technologies of unknown origin is fundamentally correct. As is the indisputable realization that at least some of these technologies of unknown origin derive from non-human intelligence. So they get stuff, they don't know what country it comes from, but along that venture, they've gathered UFOs and UFO materials and whatever, right, as part of that. And so how would he know that? Well, because he's worked on these programs, right? He has done this. And this, I'm telling you, this right here is so cool. There is so much stuff in here of what they do. I mean, this goes back a long time that we've been doing this stuff. You know? The Department of Defense's foreign material acquisition and exploitation programs continue to procure plans that may be implemented by a potential adversary and material assets that may one day fly in combat. It means getting a hold of any aircraft, any surface-to-air missiles, and finding out how to evade them. It means getting their hand on every type of radar developed so that stealth technologies stays undetected. To this day, NASIC still toils behind layer after layer of security, reverse engineering acquisitions from the battlefield and from clandestine exchanges. Although enemy tactics can change quickly as the weather, the airmen's ability to adapt to these shifts is unquestioned. They understand what's at stake. I found that this thing was fascinating, I'm telling y'all, because it gives a lot of examples of things they've done, and it's insane. So to think like we couldn't be getting these UFOs this way is like, yeah, it's totally possible. 100%. I'm not saying that's what's happened. I'm just saying, totally possible. Yeah, this is like, it's crazy. So anyway, again, I'll put links to all of this so you guys can look at it. But Carl Nell, he's now been confirmed as, well, been for a while. But now it's going to become, talked about way more now. Especially with my video here, too. I'm sure that'll help. But he is one of David Grusch's witnesses. So now we can definitely identify two, Dr. Eric Davis and Carl Nell, right? And it sounds like Carl Nell is a first-hand witness with first-hand knowledge, right? Which makes his presentation at Seoul all the more interesting. And the fact that he helped develop the UAP Disclosure Act. He was one of the members that helped with that, right? It's fascinating because he worked on these foreign material programs, right? What did he find? What did they find, man? Because he's convinced. It's indisputable realization, right? I just find that fascinating. And another thing I find fascinating is in this debrief article, a man gets mentioned by the name of Jonathan Gray. Some insiders are now willing to take the risk of coming forward for the first time with knowledge of these recovery programs. Jonathan Gray is a generational officer of the United States intelligence community with a top secret clearance who currently works for the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, NASIC. Remember this? Right, where did I have it? NASIC. Remember, they're in here. They're in this thing that I brought up here. They're mentioned several times in this thing, right? To this day, NASIC still toils behind the layer after layer of security, reverse engineering acquisitions, right? So Jonathan Gray works for NASIC, where the analysis of UAP has been his focus. Let's start that again. Jonathan Gray is a generational officer of the United States intelligence community with a top secret clearance who currently works for the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, NASIC, where the analysis of UAP has been his focus. Previously, he had experience serving private aerospace and Department of Defense Special Directive Task Forces. The non-human intelligence phenomenon is real. We are not alone, Gray said. Retrievals of this kind are not limited to the United States. This is a global phenomenon, and yet a global solution continues to elude us. At the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, Grusch served as a senior intelligence integration officer, cleared at the top secret information level, and was the agency's technical advisor for unidentified aerial phenomena analysis transmedium issues, right? So David Grusch worked through all this. He's got all the clearances as well, But it's this Jonathan Gray guy that keeps getting mentioned that I find absolutely fascinating. Jonathan Gray, the intelligence officer, so I'm just going to be skipping to his parts. Jonathan Gray, the intelligence officer specializing in UAP analysis at the National Air and Space Intelligence Center, remember, NASIC, is speaking publicly for the first time. So very first time he's mentioned. Identified here under the identity he uses inside the agency. NASIC, headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, is the Department of Defense's primary Air Force source for foreign air and space threat analysis. Its mission is to discover and characterize air, space, missile, and cyber threats, according to the agency's website. The center's team of trusted subject matter experts deliver unique collection, exploitation, and analytic capabilities not found elsewhere. Gray said that such immense capabilities are not merely regulated to the study of the prosaic. The existence of complex historical programs involving the coordinated retrieval and study of exotic materials dating back to the early 20th century should no longer remain a secret. Exotic materials. That's a term that Luis Elizondo used in a UK GQ interview online, where he said he believes the United States is in possession of exotic materials. So that same term is used again because that's not used very often. I don't see exotic materials. So I don't know. Did he get that? No. Did Luis Elizondo get that knowledge from Jonathan Gray? Dating back to the early, okay. He said, the majority of retrieved foreign exotic materials have a prosaic terrestrial explanation and origin. So he's saying this program, the majority of it is just stuff, not necessarily we would recognize, but, it's human. We know that. It's human made by one of our foreign adversaries or whatever. But not all of it. And any number higher than 0 in this category represents an undeniably significant statistical percentage. I agree. All you need is 1. All you need is 1. I sound like the Beatles here. All you need is 1. Ba-ba-na-na-na. All you need is 1. UFO, right? And then it's a reality. So who is this Jonathan Gray guy? Right? Who is Jonathan Gray? That's what I want to know, man. Is that guy ever going to come out? Is he ever going to, state this publicly? Testify, to public? Here we go. It is unusual for an Air Force insider to come forward, as the Air Force has been less forthcoming than other agencies with regard to UAP. A vast array of our sophisticated sensors, including space-based platforms, have been utilized by different agencies, typically in triplicate, to observe and accurately identify the out-of-this-world nature, performance, and design of these anomalous machines, which are then determined not to be of earthly origin. What? Right? That's what Gray said. I'm just saying. This is like, hello. Right here. Classified briefings are often presented for Jonathan Gray and his team at NASIC, or NASIC, however you want to say it. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. High-level classified briefing materials exist in which real-world scenarios involving UAP, as evidenced by historical examples, are made available to intelligence personnel on a need-to-know basis, he told us. I have been the recipient of such briefings for almost a decade. Crazy, y'all. Jonathan Gray says secrets have been necessary. Though a tough nut to crack, potential technological advancements may be gleaned Gleaned. That's an interesting word. May be gleaned from non-human intelligence, UAP retrievals, by any sufficiently advanced nation, and then used to wage asymmetrical warfare. So therefore, some secrecy must remain. However, it is no longer necessary to continue to deny that these advanced technologies derived from non-human intelligence exist at all, or to deny that these technologies have landed, crashed, or fallen into the hands of human beings. Now, before I read the next part, real quick, glean. It's just, I don't know. I was watching the Matt Ford show, and he asked, I think Kevin Knuth or Peter Skafish, hey, what did you glean from the technology or something like that? I don't know. Glean, I don't know. I don't know. It probably means nothing. That's how my brain works, y'all. It's like, where have I heard that? Where have I heard that? Right? Like, I'm not saying it means that. I don't know. It just went off. Anyway, okay, let's finish here. Gray noted that the hypothesis that the United States alone has bullied the other nations into maintaining this secrecy for nearly a century continues to prevail as the primary consensus amongst the public at large. My hope is to dissuade the global populace from this archaic and preposterous notion and to potentially pave the way for a much broader discussion, he said. Grusch said it was dangerous for this 80 years arm race to continue in secrecy because it further inhibits the world populace to be prepared for an unexpected non-human intelligence contact scenario. All right, I got one clip of Carl Nell to end with, but I want to know who Jonathan Gray is. Now, do y'all remember that Tubi 3-part series, right, with Jeremy Corbell, the UFO Revolution, right? I think, what episode was it? I don't know, second or third episode, where he's talking to a guy on the phone, and they don't say who it is, right? But they don't change his voice or anything. I wonder if that's Jonathan Gray. Just listen to that conversation again and listen to the way he talks to Jeremy Corbell. I think that's Jonathan Gray. I don't know. Y'all tell me in the comments. What do you think? What do you think? I'm curious about that. I don't know. I may have to do another video on who is Jonathan Gray because it's fascinating. Right? He's saying some insane stuff right there. Like, who is this guy? We got to know. But that's the name he uses within the agency. So the agency doesn't know his real name? I mean, I don't know. I guess he's a secret even amongst the people he works with. Now we're just getting crazy, y'all. I don't know. All right, let's end on this clip of Carl Nell here. Right. Yeah. Okay. And this is about Foya, which I just found this interesting.
The fourth piece is, and a lot of people in the audience probably know, Freedom of Information Act kind of doesn't work. The government kind of knows it doesn't work, and in some cases that's kind of good from their perspective. But even given noble intent, freedom of information is very bureaucratic and very administratively onerous, and it's not really very effective. But the fifth piece here is even more interesting, and this is again in the amendment verbatim. And this is a declaration of Congress. Right. So they've researched this and they've declared that some UAP records are exempt from mandatory declassification review under the Atomic Energy Act of 1954. So unlike the UK, some other countries, the United States, there is a mechanism to declassify classify information, and the records undergo a review every so often, usually 25 years or so, but it depends on the specific information. So there's some subset of records that the Congress has found evade this mandatory declassification review, and they're stating that that's due to the Atomic Energy Act of 1954. So you can imagine, some of the sort of historical background that might have precipitated that post-World War II, Manhattan Project, sightings going on at that time and using that same security apparatus for this topic. So that's a very significant finding that Congress is putting out there for folks that are paying attention.
And that's something that David Grusch has talked about in his Jesse Michaels interview, in other interviews, I think in the Joe Rogan one too. And it's talked about, right, that let's say the laws and the secrecy and regulations that were used to help the Manhattan Project stay a secret, they then applied that to UFOs and UAP and just, and even further, even higher classified than that. But yes, real quick, what about the Foya comment, right? Like John Greenwald Jr. was just like, spit take, I'm sure when he saw that, what? Foya, I'm sure he knows how Foya is, this, that, and the other, right? So, I get it. Let's be real. Why would the government just have an open door to get anything you want? We're kind of in a catch-22 with our own government. Because at the same time, we are the government in the sense that, hundreds of years ago, people just got together and created this. We made it. Right? And now that thing we made is controlling us. Right? Because there's programs in place that people get into those programs and just follow the rules, right? And you can't trace it back. Everyone's just following rules. It's like programs run us on a day-to-day, right? And we have to have national security, right? We have to have some sort of semblance of a society. Things have to keep moving. Everyone can't know about everything every day, right? A lot of us don't know what's happening, in our own country, much less the whole world, right? And some people just focus on other countries' problems and not even their own. It's all over the place, right? There's just so much to know. Our government has to sort of keep moving along, right? Like there's a train and they have to do things. And that just becomes part of it. We're struggling with ourselves, essentially, to get this out because we ourselves have the power to undo it. Other human beings, right? It's humans against humans here, right? This fight. I don't know, right? They say aliens and we got some sort of, agreements with them potentially. And I find that super fascinating, what that would look like, that first meeting. Right. I picture it like something out of like Narcos or something, you know what I mean? The aliens just like sitting back with their squad of aliens, just all like tough guys. Anyway, he's like the Pablo Escobar of aliens, shows up, right? Anyway, this is just all fascinating. It's all fascinating that, how a lot of this connects. And I think some people use the fact that some things connect as a negative, right? It's the same people doing the same thing. Well, maybe there's a reason for that, right? I can't imagine that. That foreign material program we looked at, they have 87 people in it. And that number may be plus or minus, give or take, but it's clearly not in the thousands, right? I know that they say that this would take thousands of people to keep it a secret over, a long time, and that's impossible. That's not impossible, man. The government is totally capable of keeping that a secret. Think about all the secrets our government actually has, whether they meant to or not. Sometimes maybe stuff's just lost. Maybe it's just forgotten. Maybe they just move on. The government is got a bazillion moving parts. There's a lot we know about our government. And there's a lot we just don't know and we'll never know. That's kind of an impossible situation. That's an impossible sort of scenario to put forth. Like our government couldn't hide that from us. We know everything that our government's doing in secret. That's just preposterous. It's also preposterous to say we know nothing that they're doing, right? It's to say we know everything or we know nothing. They're both extremes. It's impossible. Not impossible, but super improbable in my opinion. So I don't know. I've got to be honest, making this video today, like I just came closer and closer to that realization that, man, we totally are capable of recovering this craft, keeping it secret. Like that just seems a lot more plausible now than when I started today. So, you know, again, I'm not saying we have found aliens and UFOs. David Grusch has stated it. He said, here's a map. Go look. I'm waiting for that moment. What's up with that? Let's go. You know? And for these witnesses. Now, I don't know if we need to know who they are, but firsthand witnesses need to start testifying before Congress under oath. And bringing evidence, you know, pictures, videos, something. I mean, that just has to happen. Now, I get it. I'm trying to control disclosure, right? I did a poll. Let's bring that up. I did a poll on the YouTube channel in our community. It got a lot of votes. So let's bring it up real quick because this is perfect to end on. Will we get basic UFO disclosure this year? Let's see if I can bring up. Oh, there we go. Make this smaller so you can see it. Right there. Will we get basic UFO disclosure this year? Basic disclosure. Just simple statement from the U.S. government. I want to keep it very simple. Right? We are not alone and have been visited. Just that. Would we get that confirmation? Not, this is what the craft looks like. This is the alien, you know, all the details, right? Do we get the tip of the iceberg? We don't need the whole iceberg underneath, right? Just give me the dish. I don't need to know how you made it, right? A little amuse-bouche if you're into food, right? A little something at the beginning, a little aperitif. Well, right here, 1.7 thousand votes. Yes, 19%. No, 56%. 50-50, 25%. And the comments, they're you know, people talking about it, discussing it. But that's interesting, right? I don't think a lot of people think it's going to happen this year. And there's just no way to really tell, you know, to be honest. But if you add up, right, 50-50, I mean, it's just a small percentage of people who think, yeah, that's coming this year. I don't know. They say it is, right? They say all that's happening. Remember Danny Sheehan claiming that 40 whistleblowers were going to come out this year and none have yet, and we're already halfway through February. So I don't know if they're all just going to come out at one time at one press conference or something. I guess that's possible. That seems a little just too overwhelming, right? So I don't know. How do I feel? What would I have voted on this? That's interesting. I don't know. I'm going to leave y'all with the top spinning like at the end of Inception. I'm not going to answer that question. But it is interesting, right? Where everyone's head's at. That's a small sample size, but 1.7 thousand people. I think that says a lot. So, yeah, I'm curious to read all the comments. Okay, what y'all think about Carl Nell, him being one of David Grusch's, whistleblowers, this Jonathan Gray guy, foreign materials program, right? This all being actually plausible. Again, I'm not saying that's what it is, but this is getting more plausible to me that we have that capability, because I think that's where you start. So, you hear David Grusch's testimony and right, and it's like, okay, is that even, I should have done this a long time ago, to be honest. It's like, that's where you should start. Is this even plausible, something to what David Grusch is saying, right? And it kind of is, right? That we're out there doing this stuff. Again, follow some of the links in my description, and you can just see what some of stuff our government has done secretly, and what they're out there doing. And stuff that's not even disclosed like this, right? Let's be real. Stuff that's just completely off the books. I mean, dude, this is crazy, y'all. This is, and just when you hear people, they sound just so certain, right? Carl Nell sounds so certain, and so does this Jonathan Gray guy. They just sound absolutely certain. Jonathan Gray must be one of David Grusch's UFO witnesses too. That's something I'd like to know. What are y'all's guesses for some of these other witnesses? Because I guarantee you, they're names you know, right? We found out it's Dr. Eric Davis and Carl Nell. These are names that were out there, right? So now, what other names that are out there that David Grusch probably talked to that helped him with this, right? Lou Elizondo, is he one of his witnesses? I bet he is. I bet Lou Elizondo is. I do. I bet James Lukatsky, Colm Kelleher potentially are. I don't know. They seem kind of dicey about disclosure. So, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't be a witness, right? Because they've just come out and said, you know, that the phenomenon is real too. So, I don't know. But I'm curious to hear all the opinions, all the comments on this. Let's go crazy on this one. I had a lot of fun making this video. I don't know if y'all had fun watching it. For those of you that watched this far, I'm sorry it was this long. But, you know, I was excited to make this. I got to be honest. I just had a lot of fun. It was great to make it. So, and thank you to all of y'all that participated in that poll. I like to put more of those up. So anyway, all right, we'll see you guys on tomorrow's video. I will be covering Kevin Knuth's Soul Foundation video that I watched, and it is, honestly, it's amazing. It's fascinating. I can't wait to cover a couple of certain parts of it, and I really enjoyed it. I got to be honest. So a lot of y'all suggested that one and said it was like your favorite. Like, I get it. It was great. So I will be making a video about that tomorrow, but I just wanted to make this today because this just hit me, and I was like, whoa, how have I not heard about Carl Nell being one of the whistleblowers for David Grusch? Like, what are we talking about here? One of his witnesses. Anyway, hope y'all enjoy the video. We'll see you tomorrow, y'all. Remember, every day's a gift.